Hi love, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much to everybody for all your kind words and all your well wishes for myself and baby boy. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it, and it really does mean a lot to me, so thank you. So this will be part 2 of my labor and delivery story. In this video I will talk about baby boy's NICU journey, my recovery after giving birth, and what happens. It will be a long one, so grab a cuppa and get comfortable because I will leave us something for talk about. In the last video we stopped at basically telling you that baby was taken to NICU because he had breathing issues. So his official diagnosis was meconium aspiration, and he inhaled it as well as he swallowed it. So apparently normally the babies do one or the other, but baby boy did do both, and there was a lot of meconium on his chest. The meconium is the poo that stores in the baby for all the 9 months that they're growing inside the tummy, and it is deadly to baby and mummy if they do pass it inside, which is what happened with baby boy. So as I mentioned, he was code blue. So he was taken to NICU. He was put on a ventilator machine, and that was helping him to breathe. So basically what happened is, with all the meconium on his chest, what they did is they did an x-ray, and this was all told to me by my husband and the doctors, because at this time I was actually in my own surgery, and I'll get into that in a minute. They did x-rays and you could see all the meconium on his chest. It was so bad that there wasn't any clear spots. That's what the doctor said. They did tell us we were looking at a few months in the NICU at that point when they saw his chest, because it was a lot. The process of what they had to do to remove the meconium, they physically had to go in and suction it from his chest, and they also put him on antibiotics just to eliminate sepsis or infections or anything like that, which is deadly for babies when they do take in the meconium. He was also put a feeding tube in. He was also given fluids. He had just strings everywhere, literally anywhere you can think of. I did not even know that they could put IV into the belly button. It was everywhere you could have wires, cables, whatever you want to call it. It was inside him at that time. I understand, of course, they were doing everything they could to help him at the time. While baby boy was in NICU for the first day, I did not, as I said, they took him away from me straight away. I didn't actually get to see baby boy until at least 8 to 9 hours after, and that's because I was taken into my own surgery. So with him getting shoulder dysplasia stuck in my pelvis and them having to do the maneuver, push my hips and my legs back to get him out, I did tear, and I was also injured in my pelvic and hip areas, which I still have issues for today, and I'm still getting medical attention for today. And that's a whole other story. They couldn't get my cannula in, so that took at least an hour and a half, and that's because I lost a lot of blood when I had him. So I guess the veins just didn't have enough pumping for it, so it was very difficult. I think in the end, I don't know if it was in my foot, I don't know where they ended up putting it in, it's all a blur. And then the actual surgery took about 2 hours or so, but I think what took the most time was my body went into shock afterwards. So I literally, my whole body, my entire body was shaking. I didn't feel cold or anything, but it was shaking, and I think there was issues with my blood pressure as well. So I had to sit in this room for me to stabilize until I could see baby boy, because obviously with him being admitted in the NICU, unfortunately it's on the whole other side of the hospital. Finally, I got stabilized. This was 8-9 hours later. This whole time, guys, I was just crying. I was crying. I just could not deal with the fact that I couldn't be with my baby. It was literally eating me up inside. Like, obviously, I was at that point mourning the birth that I planned, that I wanted, that I hoped for, that I dreamed for. had to deal with the fact that I didn't get to breastfeed, I didn't get to smell him, I didn't get to feel him, I didn't get to cuddle him. I was worried about what was happening with him. So there was a lot going on at the time. Babe did come to see me, but I did ask him to stay with baby boy. I know he was worried about me too, but I just wanted somebody with him. So finally I got to go see him. They took me up to the ward first where they checked me in. And I dropped all my bags and everything, and then I could go to see him. Now I couldn't walk because of all the injury that happened down there. So babe, in the end, they were taking too long. I said, no, sir, I forgot to find my wheelchair or something. So babe in the end got a wheelchair and he wheeled me down there. And that was the longest walk of my life. Like, I know it's far, but honestly, guys, it seemed like I was walking to a whole other like country or something. It was just, there was a lot going through my mind at the time, and I was trying to mentally prepare for what I was about to see as well. But nothing could have prepared me for that. When I entered that room, and the nurses and doctors, amazing NICU team, and they saw me, they were like, "Hi, mommy, he's over here." Guys, seeing my baby with all those strings everywhere, the machine in his nose, over his face, I couldn't even see him because there was just stuff everywhere, and I'm thinking to myself like, this is not how I visioned seeing my baby boy for the first time. And what killed me was he was in the NICU, sorry, in the incubator thing, and I wasn't allowed to hold him because of all these um wires and the machine and the cords, and so I wasn't allowed to hold him. So I just had to literally look at him. I was allowed to hold his little hand, stroke his little head and stuff, but his eyes were closed at the time. um and then I remember when he did open his eyes, when I started talking to him, he opened his eyes, and I thought, oh, he knows I'm here. And it just brought some comfort, because it's like you feel so helpless. You feel so helpless, so hopeless, like you can't do nothing to help your baby, and that is literally your responsibility. That is what was going through my head. So it was very difficult for me, and I struggled a lot. And when I did see him, it was so crazy because he got stuck for the time that he did. There was a lot of pressure to his head, so he got bloodshot in his eyes. So his eyes were just super red, and you don't think to yourself, like, obviously these things happen, but you don't think, oh my gosh, like, that's, that happened. I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, it's a lot to process, but when I saw the bloodshot and everything, I broke down even more, because I'm like, oh my god, like, he must have been in so much pain. I was even asking the doctors, I'm like, is he in pain now? Like, why is it still red? And that took weeks to fade, weeks to fade. And every single time baby boy would look up at me, I would see it, and it would just bring me back to the whole thing. So that was very difficult. After day one, day two, day three, day for all these days, guys, literally, I wake up on the ward, I go down, I stay with baby, I'm next to him. They're calling me, they're trying to get me, they're sending nurses down because I'm on antibiotics myself. I'm meant to be healing myself. I'm meant to be doing blood pressures and all sorts of things myself, but I could only focus on him. And unfortunately, it was opposite sides of the hospital, and I was always by the NICU. Like, even though I couldn't hold him or I couldn't do nothing, I needed to be there be there with him, and nobody could change that. I wasn't sleeping very well. I didn't know day from night. I just knew I needed to be with the baby, but because of all the stress that my body was under, my milk suffered. My milk didn't come in. I don't think it came until around a week after or so, because the doctor said, because I was so stressed and the trauma that happened to my body and everything, it just took a while. And I think that was difficult for me because I always planned to breastfeed. I breastfed my first. That was a plan with my second. Not that I'm against formula or anything. And I did say to them, like, my baby, if he needs the food, give him the formula. If he can do without it, then perfect. Wait for my milk to come in. But if he needs it given to him, kind of thing. So he was put on formula for at least a day, and then fortunately my milk did eventually come in, so but it was very low, so I was literally pumping for the feed. So that's when I didn't sleep at all. They brought up a pump to the ward. I would pump when I went down to the NICU. So I was just pumping and bringing it down, and that's what he was getting fed. I think the only nice thing was we were able to feed him through the tube, where we had to hold it up. I'll insert videos, hold it up, and we put the milk inside, and that went straight down into his tummy. So around day 5, I finally got to hold him, and guys, that was the most emotional time ever, because it's like finally I was able to hold my baby. I was able to bond with him, and I could do skin to skin. Babe got to do skin to skin as well, and it was just such a magical and beautiful moment. And even though it did come 5 days late, and it absolutely killed me waiting that long to actually hold my baby, it really was the most magical thing. And I think once he was able to be on me and smell me and everything, he started doing so well. They had told us a few months to begin with, and then, they started saying actually he's improving amazingly, like he's going so quick, like it might not be a few months. Every day we're getting reports and stuff. They're just like, literally, they started calling him the miracle baby, because they're like, he's getting better so quick. I couldn't breastfeed him still, because what happens is, because his breathing was compromised with everything that happened, he was still on. From when he moved from the ventilator, he was put on a secondary breathing machine, and then there was a third breathing machine. So he had 3 different stages because of how bad the meconium aspiration was. And when they're feeding, obviously they can only breathe through their nose, and it's not enough oxygen that he's getting and everything, so he wasn't allowed to breastfeed until the oxygen levels were at a certain point. Eventually, when he did get to breastfeed and I was able to give him for the first time, he did so well. Like, he just latched on straight away. Guys, bearing in mind, I was begging, asking him when I'd be able to breastfeed, when I'll be able to breastfeed. Obviously, they just told me they wouldn't be able to tell me. They just have to see how baby is doing every day. This whole time he wasn't in clothes, and that really, really made me sad, because I picked out like his first onesie, his first outfit and everything, but because of all the wires and everything that he needed medically, he wasn't allowed to wear any clothes. But I was so hopeful. I set up his little caddy underneath his incubator thing. So I told all the nurses and everybody, and I labeled like his outfits and everything, just hoping and praying that one day he'll be able to wear the clothes. We don't know when it is, but I just want him to be all sorted and everything's ready for him when that time does come. And I remember one day I came down, because all I was doing, as I said, no sleep, feeding, pumping, taking my meds, going down to see him. That's all I was doing. I was literally in autopilot. And I remember one day I went down and I found out he got moved to the second room. And that means when your baby gets moved from the intensive care, means they're getting better. And I remember being so excited, because they called me and told me. So I was rushing down and everything. And when I went in there, guys, it's almost like I was seeing him for real for the first time all over. Before, he had the tape and the tubes and the mask and the oxygen and everything, so I couldn't really see him. And he was in his first outfit. He was in his first outfit, and he had no tubes and everything. And I remember his little cheeks being so red from the tape, because he had tape from he was born, keeping the tubes and everything. And I remember seeing him, and I was like, and I looked at the nurse and I said, he's wearing his clothes. He doesn't have any tubes. And I remember breaking down so much, and she just hugged me and comforted me and said, yes, mummy, that's your baby. And the team is from the Philippines, and honestly, they are a godsend. They were absolutely amazing. And I'll just never forget the day when I came home. As I said, I'll insert all these clips for you guys. And then basically he ended up spending around almost 2 weeks there. We both did. I had a few issues. My feet, they started swelling up. I had to do some scans to check for blood clots and stuff because I was having pain. Right throughout this whole thing, I was bleeding. Um, as you may or may not know, you do bleed after you have a baby. So showering in hospital is not for the weak. Also, I remember when I was packing my hospital bag and they told me, "Oh, you're overpacking." I used everything, everything plus more. Yes, I did have an unexpected issue that happened, but there's no such thing as overpacking. Tips for the hospital though: shower shoes, because the bathroom them nasty and people nasty, so you need shower shoes for sure. After that, and we were finally discharged, there were a few issues. They messed up my prescription. um when before we got discharged, they sent him up to the ward to stay with me for the night. When they discharged him from NICU, and they were supposed to do observations and things before we get the go ahead from the pediatrician to go home. So they said we are going to go home, for example, this Saturday comes, I'm excited, I'm packed and everything, because these times my poor little princess Amira, she would come and visit, but she wanted her mum to be home. She wanted her baby brother to be home. It's not how she planned to meet her brother either. So she was going through a difficult emotional time as well, because this was a lot of change for her. It's not what we planned, it's not what we expected. So I just really wanted to go home. And then the pediatrician comes and they're like, "I'm really sorry, mommy, we can't discharge you," because they were meant to check and monitor him throughout the night to make sure his oxygen levels were okay, because it was the first time without the machine or whatever. Nobody checked us that night. But me being me, I never slept anyway, because I kept watching him like a hawk to make sure he was breathing, make sure there wasn't any rapid. They tell you what to look out for, because when they discharge him from the NICU, everything's not clear from the chest. But once he gets to a certain point, then the healing, the rest of the journey can happen at home. So I was pissed, because I'm thinking, what if something happened? Like, nobody came and checked. They were meant to be checking him every hour and doing his obs and writing his stats down, and nobody came and checked him. So we had to stay another night, and they came, they did observations and everything, and we got the go ahead to go home. So when we did come home, we did surprise Amira, and that was mixed emotions again, but I was just so happy to be home. The journey then was a whole of a journey once we got home, because not only was it a new journey for me, even though it was my second baby, he, with the way his life started, that it was a lot different. I had a lot more anxiety. I was very anxious. His breathing was always top priority. I was very worried. He got a lot of lung issues afterwards. They said it may or may not be related, but he got reflux. So that's a whole other story. So if you want to know that story as well, comment down below, and I'll do that story time as well, where I just sort of discussed how our healing went at home, for himself, for myself, what the family dynamic changed to, and then dealing with the after effects of having a traumatic birth. We're so many months down the line, and I still struggle even up to this day. So yeah, I'm happy to do another story time. Thank you guys so much for joining me for part 2 of my labor and delivery story. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all the love. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.